Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Today is February 16th, 2023, and I'm making yet another video on contingent staking. Chip away at it. All right, so let's share my screen a bit. So I've been reading some of the comments that the community has, and I figured that it would be good to address a few of them. So I sent out a poll, and it looks like the overwhelming majority of you want me to do a Twitter space, and so we can have a live debate over Twitter. I'll work with a moderator, probably have Rick or somebody do it. We'll ask who's available. And so I'll announce a date, but hopefully we can get it done this week, and we can have a lively debate over this topic. And if you are a CS critic, CSC, show up and let's talk, because I really want to understand what's going on here. One of the reasons why I think this has become so frustrating is that the worst parts of argumentation are being deployed. You have this slippery slope argument. You have straw mans. You have a lot of drama for the sake of drama. And these are not productive. They don't benefit anyone in our ecosystem. And frankly, if this is how we debate when 1694 comes in, we're not going to get anywhere. And this is why I'm taking this particular issue, which is a minor issue, by the way, very seriously, because this is a teachable moment for all of us about how we are going to get some things done. If we can't get past something like this, then how are we going to get past what post-quantum thing are we going to do? Or how do we get input endorsers in? Or if we want to change the incentive model to accommodate new things in Cardano, how would we go about that? Cardano is a living organism, and it requires proper debate, but that debate has to be fact-based. Hang on, let me go ahead and get rid of that. There we go. It has to be fact-based. It's always strange where a light touch causes it to zoom so far out. It has to be fact-based, and it has to be fair. Problem is that a lot of people, and I don't blame people, the media and modern politics, they've turned debates into basically a death match. And it's not about the facts. It's not about being fair. It's not about understanding what are we trying to accomplish. It's not about acknowledging that differences of opinion can exist. It's about winning. And any dissent from a person's viewpoint is acknowledging defeat and loss. So it's okay to lie. It's okay to mislead. It's okay to play the victim. It's okay to fuck with power dynamics. It's okay to play politics of division, all these types of things. And so it's unreasonable to assume that when this is happening at a multi-billion-dollar level for nation states in every Western democracy, that somehow we're going to be immune to it, and our angels of our higher reason are going to come in. At the core, what happens when you invent something is you invent a concept. Okay, so we have this idea of staking, pure staking. This is like 2016 Ouroboros. Okay. Then we say, yeah, we need to reduce variance and get consistency and these types of things. And so we say, okay, let's do this idea of staking plus the optional stake pool. All right. And, that's 2017 Ouroboros. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. And then we have to kind of figure out how to do it. And we're here in 2023. And what we've discovered is that you have your normal stake pools, but then all of a sudden you also have some not so normal stake pools that are doing different things. Okay. So for example, the University of Wyoming, they're running a stake pool through the Blockchain Technology Center, or whatever they call the lab there. Okay, so they have an SPO. You have high school, the Shoshone high schoolers. That's technically a state institution is running an SPO. Okay. There's been some discussion about political candidates running an SPO. Okay. So we have not normal actors doing this and doing this for different things. You have not-for-profits, NPOs, that are running SPOs as charity pools. You have ISPOs, people actually doing token distribution, so token generating events using SPOs. There's some people that are trying to figure out how to build some sort of regulated products with an SPO. Okay, so for example, yield enhancement. So they create an SPO, you delegate to them, they take the money and they do some DeFi magic, and you get a higher than protocol yield. So similar to what a lot of these exchanges were trying to do, as an example. Okay, so you have normal everyday pools that operate the way we thought they would in 2017, and then you have this different class of people. Nation states at some point may run pools and say only our citizens can do that. So then we also, at the same time, invented this concept called the Cardano native asset. So we have ADA, and then you have World Mobile Token. You have your favorite NFT. You have tokens for Sunday Swap. You have tokens for all these hundreds of Cardano projects. And what CNA basically says is that we're going to treat these the same way. So there's this thought process of reusing the staking mechanics in part or whole for native assets. Now, all these tokens have radically different ideas. So, for example, if you're Ape Society and there's a DAO and you have these ape tokens or an ape NFT, well, that's a club. That's a closed ecosystem that you have to buy your way into it. So holding ADA doesn't make you an Ape Society person. You have to be part of that. It's membership. Then maybe there's some sort of governance layer, staking layer, these types of things. Okay. So maybe you have to be of a certain status before you're allowed to participate. So if there was reuse of the staking mechanic, that would be another one of these red circles of non-standard staking. So what we try to do is we try to think of a design pattern where you can accommodate both sides of this and say, well, right now it's a push transaction. And we say, well, just add the capability for a multi-sig transaction with both sides being able to determine what their signing conditions are and add the metadata payload. And that's probably the minimum viable design pattern that would accommodate all of these use cases. And yes, of course, it would also accommodate some notion of regulation if desired. Here's what the opponents are arguing. The mere existence of this would somehow mean that the US government or some other government agency would come in and completely force everybody to completely eliminate the normal staking option. I'm trying to understand their argument, but this is one of the things they're saying. That's that slippery slope. The minute that we have this capability, it will be forced upon us all. Okay, so let's go through that scenario and ask how. If you're going to make a slippery slope argument, how? To get this feature implemented, we're assuming that it exists post SIP 1694, which means that you, the ADA holder, have to vote for that. The engineers have to hard fork the protocol and remove that protocol capability, remove the normal stake certificate without somehow forking the ecosystem. You, the staker, it's a peer-to-peer ecosystem, can have a personal choice of whether you delegate to one of these for some reason or one of these. So we're assuming that all these pools will be pushed in a particular direction. So then I ask a very simple question to the people arguing this simple slippery slope. Why would the existence of this capability mean anything to a regulator. If they're already going to go down the road and say that staking must be done this way, all the fact that this capability is missing from Cardano would mean is 100% of the stake pool operators would be in non-compliance. So effectively, what they would do is go to all the exchanges listing Cardano and delist it, saying it's now a blacklisted protocol. This feature has no bearing on what a regulator would do and how that reality works. So your slippery slope argument saying, well, just because we put this thing in and now there's a capability for certain entities, like let's say Bob is running for the US Senate and Federal Elections Commission requires him to know who his donors are, can't have dark money, and he wants to use a stake pool as an innovative way of raising money. Giving Bob, the senator candidate, this option somehow is magically going to make the US government now blacklist the entire protocol. And by the way, you as an ADA holder have to vote for that. You have to do that. The US government has no say in that. You, the ADA holder, would have to actually remove this capability. You, the ADA holder, would have to make a decision to delegate only to contingent pools and not non-contingent pools. So where did you lose your voice here? Where did you lose control here? How will, in practice, this slippery slope be accomplished? I don't know. And so in the Twitter space, I would love a coherent argument of a step-by-step, fact-based way that introducing this mechanism, which benefits lots of people, is going to result in that outcome. This is not a hypothetical. Millions, if not tens of millions of dollars have been raised. Regulated and government actors are running stake pools. Political candidates have expressed desire. We have not-for-profits that do have compliance for tax reasons running stake pools at the moment. And as we grow and become more sophisticated, people are going to build regulated products. We have a diverse and large ecosystem of native assets, and some iteration of the protocol later on will involve using staking mechanics. Now, why do we not introduce this as a layer 2 solution? Because then you lose trust, you lose automation, and also you lose universality. The Cardano protocol cannot enforce rules in the layer 2. So if this is some sort of patched up layer 2 solution to do that, you will be completely at the mercy of the stake pool operator. And you lose actually all ability to have a say in it. Also, that cannot necessarily be applied universally to all of these things. So I'm sure somebody can come up with some sort of wonky, bizarre thing, but it's significantly simpler and better to put this on layer 1. Second, it's much more difficult for Plutus to interact with a layer 2 solution. So if you wanted to build a collection of smart contracts, like potentially using this as an example for some sort of future version of Conclave for small stake pool operators to bind together under a specific logic, it would be substantially harder to do this as a layer 2. Okay, but let's just slippery slope it and straw man it. Straw man, I've seen a lot of comments saying, well, this automatically means that now Cardano is KYCing everything. Again, by what mechanism? If you are a Cardano user, you have a choice. You can delegate to normal pools or contingent pools. And contingent pool doesn't necessarily mean KYC, for example. It's any condition that the business owner, the pool operator, wants. Any condition. So that any condition could be as simple as sign a terms and service agreement. Okay. That condition can be assertions like I'm over a certain age. You can even use zero knowledge proofs to prove that without revealing any personally identifiable information. Okay, so zero knowledge cryptography could be used. It could be as simple as providing an address. For example, if they say, if you stake with me, I'm going to give you an NFT, and I need to know what address you want me to send that NFT to. So contingent staking does not equal KYC. It is a subset of a massive universe of discourse. Okay, it's not equal to. There's going to be, if this feature existed, hundreds, if not thousands of use cases built on it that have nothing to do with KYC. Nothing at all. But I guess we're just going to say it automatically equals KYC. So again, I'm very looking forward to this Twitter space because I want the people that are spewing this nonsense to make an argument that is fact-based, fair, and acknowledge that they're lying. And I'm sorry, it's not about having a difference of opinion. A difference of opinion is, should we have a tax rate of 25% or 35%? And fair arguments can be made on both sides, and they're deeply philosophical. When people say, I don't support contingent staking because it will force every single person to comply with US regulation, and they provide no supporting evidence of step-by-step of how that's going to happen outside of a hypothetical slippery slope, which doesn't connect, as you see here, to anything, that's a lie. Or at the very least, it's succumbing to the current politics that we have. And then drama. Just tweet, Reddit, all these things. And so, let's go to a critic. And let's actually read verbatim the critic on Reddit. Because, I'm a fair guy. I try to understand what's going on, and I went to Reddit. So I'm going to go line by line through this person, give him an update to do that. So let me scroll down and find the particular thread. I read it this morning because I'm trying to understand. I really am. Let's see here. Cardano 360. Hope the moderators didn't. Yeah, it's right here. Okay. So let me share my screen again. Present. Share screen. So this is their opportunity. Okay. So contingent staking right here. Oh, no, actually, that's not the right thread. It's a little higher. Charles Impact. I just saw it this morning. Valentine's upgrade. I hope it didn't get taken down. Here we go. Okay, so I did a tweet, 10 tweets yesterday, and a person took my tweets one by one and wrote it down. It says, all right. So he said, I did read his thread, and I don't think he responded to the actual complaints. I think he responded to his emotions he felt about the complaints. Okay, well, allow me to respond to his points. Sorry for the length. So my first tweet, I'm still at a loss reading some of the comments on contingent staking. It's incredible how polarized some people have become to the extent that they cannot understand a basic concept and continue to misrepresent it. Maybe he's not understanding the complainers. I don't feel he's answering the complaints. Okay, well, Wilbur, it's your chance to actually tell me. Contingent staking does not implement a KYC regime on Cardano, which is a true statement. That's what I said. It does not replace normal staking. True statement. Does not remove private pools. True statement. A marketplace of SPOs would still exist and allow people to continue to delegate their preferences, including normal stake pools. So those are all facts. So his reply to this is, it doesn't immediately stop normal staking. The concern is if we add this, we don't know what else may be enforced by regulation later on. Local government preferences should not be put on the main layer. Again, you are making a slippery slope argument here. So you're telling me that every single ADA holder is going to vote to remove, at the behest of the US government, a current capability in Cardano. Well, if that's going to happen, why wouldn't they do it with or without contingent staking and force this upon everybody? By adding this, you're now disregarding all those other people. So let's get to it later on. Opponents of this concept offer no solution for how actors like governments, universities, regulated entities, not-for-profits, and others who could and sometimes actually do run stake pools can do so and stay in compliance with local regulations. I guess they don't matter. Here we go. So let's read his reply. It's not that they don't matter. It's that they don't matter as much as maintaining what complainers believe crypto is about. No, what you believe crypto is about. So what you're saying is your viewpoint is the only one that matters, and we should not make provisions for anyone else outside of your philosophy. Because here's the thing, crypto's about giving everybody freedom, everybody control, everybody the ability to do something. So you believe crypto should be completely anonymous, no KYC, no oversight. That's fine. Your values are reflected in the normal stake pool certificate, which is not being removed. But what you're doing is saying your values are the only ones that matter. So what we need to do is prevent any other participant from being in. So he goes on, if U.S. universities can't run a stake pool until the U.S. is forced to toe the line and catch up with Africa's financial progress, the complainers are fine with that. So in other words, your opinion is the only one that matters, or add it, but not to the base layer. We've just gone over that. It reduces security. It relies upon trust. It reduces the ability of Plutus to interact with it. You can't use it with Cardano native assets as easily. You're a solutions guy. We were here supporting your dream. What other solutions have you got? You've come up with 50 in the time to come up with none. Well, the SIP process is here for a reason. We can certainly talk about it, but right now talking about a hypothetical. But this kind of a pattern is a natural iteration that reflects the real use cases that people today are using Cardano for. That's why it's being proposed. Say here, opponents of contingent staking don't seem to understand how dangerous an ISPO is without entry conditions and contracts prior to getting customer funds. They also want to remove all agency of SPOs, claiming they're apparently a public good. Maybe they do understand, but they have a different priority. Okay, that's fair. So let's vote about it then, because I don't think any reasonable person wants people to work for free or be asserted that they have an obligation to perform a service without their consent or compensation. SPOs are businesses, and this is a philosophical thing. They're not wanting to remove all agency. They just like how it currently is. Well, that's great. So how would this remove all those people who feel that way? They would continue delegating to normal stake pools, and those normal stake pools can only be removed if all of Cardano gets together and removes that through a hard fork. Slippery slope argument, you haven't provided any evidence of the actual process of what would be done there or how that's any different from the government just compelling us to do it anyway. Okay, so we get here. I'm not sure what a public good is in this context. SPOs compete against each other and charge fees for your delegation. They are optional, but valuable service providers like mining pools and Bitcoin to enhance the quality of the network and reduce reward variance. So he replies back, I think by public good, they mean SPO feels like almost they're part of the superior Cardano protocol and not the old American way of doing things. They prefer feeling part of this than they do feeling part of America. I don't even know what that means. You asked me to reply to the comments and be fair in the representation of these things, but I'm talking about actual facts here. A person has to build hardware, either bare metal or rent it from Amazon or somewhere else. They have to do actual work. They have to advertise. They have to make a compelling case of why you should select them over someone else. That sounds a hell of a lot like a business to me. There's a capital investment being done. There's a marketing activity being done for the pursuit of profit. And they may philosophically love Cardano and agree with these things. And actually, later in this video, we're going to talk about the future of SPOs, how deep this rabbit hole goes. Apparently, they should have no say in who they do business with or the terms and conditions of business relationships. Even public utilities have contractual relationships with their customers, but SPOs apparently can't. He said right here, I, for one, like this. Yes, I like SPOs don't get to choose who stakes at their pools. Okay, so that's fine. You want a business that can never refuse business. That's great. Delegate to a normal stake pool. But what if you have an investment opportunity and you decide that that's a great idea and you want to delegate to a regulated pool? What if you support a politician and you want to use staking to support them? Do you understand that it's a two-way relationship, not a one-way relationship? Again, your values are such that only you matter. No one else in the world does. And these people have no right to stay in compliance with the law. Great. It's one of my favorite things. I don't want that choice added. So in other words, you don't want to give a choice to people. You want to take choices from people. This is the argument. Okay. I'm not sure why discourse broke down like this on contingent staking, but it's a moment that everybody should reflect upon. As Voltaire looms, there are many tough decisions to make about the future, funding trade-offs, and roadmap. Contingent staking is a minor concern compared to the totality of it. That's a true statement. This is one feature about multisig when we're literally talking about everything, the governance of the protocol, all these things in totality. And he says this, to Charles, it's a minor concern. To others, it's absolutely massive. And again, what are they articulating as a massive? That somehow giving stake pool operators who are businesses the ability to have more tools in their bag to run their business the way they need to for whatever concerns they have, whether it be tax or contractual relationships not to get sued or other such things, giving people a choice is wrong. Okay. Charles has always insisted that. Essentially, he thinks even stupid people have the right to make their own choices. They do. You can delegate to any pool. You can run a private pool. You can vote no in SIP 1694. And he then argues the decentralized brain is smarter than the individual brain. I would certainly hope so. Research shows that. But we have to get the right communication channels, and we have to eschew the problems that exist with the current way we debate each other. His brain is but one node in this, and it's doing its job of thinking it's right, but other brain nodes, rightly or wrongly, think they're right. Yes, but we have to be better. And better means that we have to follow a process. We follow a process in the scientific method. Every one of the papers that's published we attempt to through peer review. There's a standardized process, and we benefit from discovering problems in those papers through the peer review process. Why should argumentation be any different? I'm sorry. We can't accept this line right here that other brain nodes, rightly or wrongly, think they're right. This is not my feelings. This is not all the stuff that happens right now in modern postmodernist debates where there is no truth and everybody's right and cultural relativism is the way to go. Guys, this is an ecosystem. We got to move forward. We got to vote on things. We got to push forward. And when you see that there's a clique of people that's growing pretty rapidly that are doing non-standard things with stake pools, you got to find a solution for it. We can certainly entertain and understand that there's big trade-offs in these types of things. We can entertain other solutions. And then ultimately you have to make a call, a judgment call based upon facts. That's fair. And I don't see anything that's fair here. And then it says, if governance is going to work for us all, then we need to stop having low information, dramatic, knee-jerk reactions to issues that aren't even codified in SIPs. That's a true statement, guys. SIP's not even written. We also cannot use communication mediums that were built to polarize and divide. That's also a true statement. We're devolving into snippets and tweets and these things. He says to this, Charles is having a knee-jerk reaction to these complaints. No, I'm not. A knee-jerk reaction would not be making these videos and spending 30 to 40 to 45 minutes, hour, going through line by line and explaining why this is a problem. This has nothing to do at the end of the rainbow with contingent staking. This has everything to do with how we go about solving problems and debating and discussing with each other. Person introduces an idea, the idea gets structured into a SIP or something like that, and then we start talking around, why is this a good idea? Not every idea gets accepted. Not every idea gets voted on. And what we've noticed is that they've stopped and they said, we assume that this idea is not only just an idea, but it's also a reality and it's going to be force implemented on everybody without any consent, is dishonesty. And the critics are doing that. And they're doing it in mass, which is a bizarre thing. And guys, if this is how we go about things, how will we vote on anything and approve anything? He goes on, he said, Charles may well be 100% correct about what's being best for Cardano and us achieving what we want to do, but the complainers are not seeing it. That is true. They're not. Stop knee-jerking and discuss. Well, that's what I'm trying to do here, and that's why we're going to do a Twitter space. It's what he's been fighting for the whole time. It's what Cardano's about. We agree there. It's not about what Charles wants. Well, this is not what I want. This is me watching and noticing what you guys want. I didn't do an ISPO. I'm not running a charity pool. I'm not a political candidate running for office considering funding with a staking event. Okay, I'm not the University of Wyoming running a stake pool at their lab. I'm not running a regulated product with a stake pool. But you guys, the collective totality of the Cardano ecosystem, are doing that. I'm not Ape Society building a DAO that may want to rely on the staking mechanics in some way for that. And we have thousands of these native assets floating around that could potentially benefit from that. Let's be very clear about these things. He made it very clear many times. I don't feel polarity nor division. Well, I sure as hell do. I feel concern and discussion. No, there's no discussion here when people throw out the slippery slope. fair concerns, okay. But then we have to, if you are making an argument, you have a moral obligation with that argument to be fair in the argument. So you have to present a path of how this is going to happen, because currently the proposal is that you guys have to vote for this. It gets implemented. And then you guys would have to vote again when the US government or whatever boogeyman of the week shows up and vote to remove all the other staking mechanics inside the system. And also, you, the ADA holder, would have to delegate to only contingent stake pools and not delegate to non-stake pools. And no market will exist for them. World's a big place. Okay. I think that Charles is all head up and not responding at his best with us. Well, I'm trying to remediate that here. So I said right here, I hope that if SIP 1694 passes and the MBO is a success, that the DREPs and MBO members will rise above these channels, and establish a structured, transparent, and fact-based process to debate and converge to decisions. That's why I'm making a big deal about this, because this is a prerequisite for us to be successful with decentralized governance. We cannot allow Cardano to become a reflection of the greater divisions most Western democracies are currently facing. We have to be better for the sake of the 7 years of hard work committed to these protocols and the millions of users. These videos are fighting for you guys, the millions of users, because I don't want a situation where we stall. I don't want a situation where we become Bitcoin and become a cult around an orthodoxy and doctrine. I don't want a situation where we get co-opted by demagogues and straw men. Slippery slope is one of the arguments that demagogues and straw men use to gain power and exceptions to rules. I invite Charles to discuss these instead of demand. How am I demanding? Where have I demanded anything? You see, that's another example of an unfair criticism. I demand you guys do this. I say we're going to do a SIP, and you're going to vote on the SIP. So I demand what? That you vote on a SIP? Well, you're going to vote on all the SIPs. And it's a fair consideration to everyone, whether it be SIP 50 or other SIPs. Everybody has their time in the sun if they go through the process of writing a SIP. And your DREPs and SPOs and others are going to make these types of decisions. Insist and strop about angrily. I'm not angry here. I'm frustrated. And there's a big difference, because this is not fair to you, not to me. Who cares about me? It doesn't matter to me, guys. I built Cardano, but you're the ones running Cardano. You're the ones who are in charge of Cardano. And I'm frustrated because this is a road for us to not be successful and flame out as an ecosystem. It's also not fair to the stake pool operators. You are treating them in this argument, and you see multiple references to it. Going back down here, basically saying, we just don't care about them. They have a different priority. We like it how it is. Okay, so I guess that's the American way of doing things. I like that SPOs don't get to choose who stakes to their pools. Okay, so in other words, your opinion is your particular way you use cryptocurrency is the only way, and Cardano should not accommodate any other way. Okay, so I'm sorry, who's demanding here? You say that I'm demanding. You're basically saying your viewpoint is that no one else can use it any other way than this particular way, which, by the way, was an evolving way. And the reason we built governance into the system is so that we can have these discussions about how the system changes. The complainers are discussing their ideas. No, they're not. If you look at the tweets, you look at a lot of the things saying here, they're saying, I'm going to sell all my ADA because Cardano is now a governance coin owned by the US government. Charles has been co-opted by WEF. Hundreds, if not thousands, of statements recently along those lines. And again, their core idea is slippery slope. And I haven't seen a step-by-step argument in the Twitter space. You have an opportunity to engage with me, talk with me, and I'd love to hear it, because it's a debate. Charles is saying their ideas are shit. Again, I don't understand the ideas. And nothing in your 10 points here provides any step-by-step process on how this is a problem for Cardano. You have refused in your debate to acknowledge that these people exist, other than saying, I like it the way it is, and let's not change it. Okay, so none of this adds any value. You like the fact that these people create volume and value inside the ecosystem, but you just as well rather than be completely thrown away, go somewhere else because you like it the way it is. Okay, so you're the one dehumanizing them, not me. And I'm not telling complainers to shut up. If I was doing that, why would I be doing a Twitter space? Let's talk about staking in general. Move over to that. And I'm sure there's other things, but I found this one on Reddit, and it's the only one that did a step-by-step discussion of what I wrote, so that's why I picked it. If you guys have better arguments, blog posts, these things, write it. I'll read it. It's my commitment to you. If you're an SPO over the next 5 years, you're going to be running a lot of stuff. The core Cardano protocol. You're going to be running a collection of sidechains, so I'll call it N sidechains. You're going to be running Mithril infrastructure. You're going to be running Hydra. You're going to be running additional software, additional infra that's dependent upon your preferences. Okay. So look at all this stuff here. You make a revenue stream here, revenue stream here, revenue stream here. You're doing something for the network here, doing something for the network here. You're going to be running relays. Okay. Tons of things. And they're basically saying, well, this guy's not a business. Well, hang on a second here. What if a pool only runs this? By the core protocol, that's okay. That's the only thing at the moment that the core protocol actually requires of a stake pool operator. So you at Delegator have a decision to make. Do you delegate to this pool that runs only that, this pool that runs only that, to this pool that runs all these things, to this pool that runs all these things? So why would you delegate to this pool over this pool over this pool? Maybe you have philosophical reasons for it. Maybe you have other reasons. But here's the thing. If this guy's running N side chains, and this is N minus K and N minus J, well, this guy probably has the highest revenue. And maybe this guy over here is running a regulated product on top of his stake pool. Okay? So this may have the maximum revenue. So which one of these is the public good? Explain this to me. Is it a public good when they run a Mithril node that benefits all the wallets? Is it a public good when they run Hydra? Is it a public good when they run relays? Are they required to run every single sidechain? What if there's a particular sidechain that people disagree with? Because it's an open ecosystem. So, what if somebody comes by and runs a sidechain and say, this is the kill the squirrels? Poor squirrels, kill the squirrels chain. And so 100% of the profit is donated to people to commit squirrel genocide. And what if you're a squirrel lover? Do you now have to run that chain because somebody's proposed it? It's optional infrastructure in the Cardano ecosystem. I don't know. I don't understand the argument. I don't because they say, well, they're public good. They have to run these things. So who gets to decide that? Well, in the world I live in, you get to decide that by your choice of who you delegate to. And you have a competitive marketplace where people make decisions of pool A or B or C or D based on the values and jurisdictions and reliability metrics. And there are going to be hundreds of other pieces of infrastructure these pools are running. Some of these pools are going to run only open hardware and open source. Some of these pools will actually write tools and donate money to the writing of tools. Some of these pools will run multiple chains. Some of these pools will run bridges to other ecosystems like Algorand or other such things. Okay, so interoperability. Some of these pools may actually be running back-end infrastructure for dApps, for off-chain components. We don't know. 5 years is a long time. So this is clearly a business. And what they run has a revenue component, and they're trying to attract your choice as a delegator to delegate to them. And they advertise such. They say, we have fast hardware and we run more relays than anybody else. And we're supporting the Hydra network and we're going to make Mithril certificates. Why? Because it's either them or someone else. That is what a free market is about. So saying that there exists another pool that's contingent at the end of the rainbow, you get to decide that. What the people are arguing against contingent staking is saying it's so offensive, the mere potential that this pool has a say and whether to accept your delegation transaction or not, that it will so fundamentally change the character of Cardano, and it just opens this door for regulators to come in and basically just destroy everything else. By what means? They do not control the update protocol. You do, the ADA holder, through SIP 1694. So if they don't control this update protocol, that means you must consent the user to do that. Are you going to? A lot of people say, fuck no. Well, if that's the case, how does the existence of this kill these guys? And what you're saying is all the value that this can produce for the Cardano ecosystem from some of these examples over here, and there are thousands more, we're going to throw that all away, to quote one of the critics, because, and by the way, I'm not answering the complaints, but to quote the critics, they just like it how it currently is. And they have different priorities. Okay. Well, if that's the case, vote no. That's your power. And that's what choice is about. You have two levels of choice: who you do business with and your values. And ADA gives you the voting power to decide what SIPs are there and not. So why is this me ranting? It's not. And so you need to chill out, guys. You need to take a step back and realize this right here was designed for manufactured consent. Great book on it from Noam Chomsky. It's not a new game. It's been going on for a very long time. See, kings of old, they just said, God gives me the right. Called it the divine right of kings. Then we invented these republics and rules-based society. And they said, well, that's scary. We can't let people vote and lead themselves. And so what they did is they created a propaganda system to basically allow kings to exist. And a lot of you are suffering from it. This is my point. And you see it in the COVID policy. You see it in a lot of the things that have happened, especially in the last 5 years. And anybody who disagrees, they get labeled as problematic, and they have all kinds of terms: deplatform. They call it hate speech. There's all kinds of terms they've invented: problematic, these types of things. So they get removed from the conversation. To manufacture consent, mislead you. And what they do is they prey upon slippery slope, straw man arguments, and drama, division. And that's what you're succumbing to here. I mean, this is a pretty compelling argument. We can have an argument and a discussion about different implementation models, and that's the point about the SIP process. But you have to make a decision if this is what you're voting on, if these people matter. And when you start saying the only people that matter are people that are important to me and everybody else should be thrown away, you have to start asking yourself, is that empathetic thinking? And are you really embracing the principles of decentralization, embracing the principles of openness and transparency? Or are you basically saying everyone else is wrong but me? And then what people do is they project. They attack the people that are trying to make change and apply what they're doing themselves onto those particular people. This is not a new topic. I brought up contingent staking in 2021. There was no issue with that. Is the Cardano community so radically different today than they were back then? No. The difference is the political medium has radicalized people and got people to have knee-jerk reactions to things. And so they're not thinking clearly, and they're making straw man or slippery slope arguments. Maybe I'm wrong about that, and I'm willing to admit that. And if I am, your opportunity to show that publicly for the whole world to see, 1 million Twitter followers, is on that Twitter space that we get set up. And I'd love to hear a clear, articulated argument about that. First off, you must, if you're going to be fair to me and fair to these people, acknowledge that these people exist. And you must provide then an explanation of why they shouldn't have something built into the protocol to help them go about things, because the Cardano community has an appetite for this stuff. Second, you have to be fair to the argument I'm making here and explain to me why an optional feature, an additional feature capability in the protocol will lead to your disaster scenario that you're projecting, saying that this is going to create a slippery slope where the government's going to take over the entire protocol. If you can't provide that, then what you're basically collapsing your argument down to is, I don't wanna. And then you have to explain to everybody why you still just can't do this and delegate to a normal stake pool, and why that option is still not good for you. And if you can't do that, then you really have to take a step back and say, what is your argument? What are you doing here? You see, and maybe, just maybe, you got some residual stuff left over from what is bombarded every single day by CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and every one of these media outlets. Maybe, just maybe, that stain, that mental stain, is eating away at you and causing problems. You see? And why it's such a big deal is that while this is a feature, and who cares if it's in the protocol or not, if it's not, well, then some kludgy layer 2 is probably going to be cobbled together and then get hacked and money stolen and problems happen. Okay, suboptimal, but whatever. More importantly, how will we ever get anything done with SIP 1694? That's the crux of it. This is an experiment on-chain governance, and it's only as good as each of the nodes and their ability to work with each other and acknowledge that people have differences of opinion. I fully acknowledge that they exist, and I welcome debate and dialogue and talking to people. That's why I make these whiteboard videos. This is why I spend so much time on them. I don't have to, but I do, because I really want people to be informed, and I want people to understand the point of these videos is about understanding they're in charge and they have the final say and obligation. This and many other things, if reflected in the SIP process, you're going to vote on. And you have to, at the end of the day, decide yes or no. And the question is your yes or no based upon some critical thinking, or is it based upon some tweet that you saw, or just some opinion that has not really been critically analyzed? The end result is going to determine the entire character of the Cardano ecosystem and what's real, what's not real, and if we succeed or fail. It's not in my hands anymore. I wish the world worked that simple, but it doesn't. To be truly decentralized, it's in your hands, and we have to be good enough to be able to handle these types of things. So I welcome debate. I welcome conversation. I'm pretty excited about it, and we'll get something set up, and hopefully Rick can help out, but we'll find a moderator. And I hope this video was of some use to you guys.